Okay, I think we should be live. As usual, if you guys and gals can please let me know if that is actually the case as I fiddle with things. I was kind of in a rush. I just got home 15 minutes ago. So give me a moment and bear with me here. But I think everything should be good to go. There we go. Okay, so I'm looking at what you are all presumably looking at. So, and yes, even despite this, I was a couple minutes late, so I do apologize. But if you guys can hear me, please do say so. All right, but otherwise, I'll go ahead and start. Uh-oh, someone's saying a black screen of nothingness. I don't know. I can see me. Okay, cool. All right, apparently everything is kosher now. Hello, my name is Nick. This is Board Game Brawl. Most of you probably already know that, but if you don't know that, this is a website or YouTube channel, but also a website dedicated strictly to me and my obsession with board games, and that's normally what we do, but occasionally reviews and things. Occasionally I do live Q&As, which is what this is, and I love this. I love doing these. I really should probably do them more often. I'm just afraid to burn out on it, and I want people to stock up good questions and not have you guys burn out on it as well. So once every couple of weeks seems pretty reasonable at this point. As the audience grows, maybe this will become more frequent. So I'm going to answer all the questions in order. I've got a lot of cool stuff. At some point during this Q&A, I will go ahead and show you some of the new stuff that's on the horizon. I just did a big pickup at cool stuff today, and I've had some other cool stuff. I mean, general cool stuff. Okay, that come in over the last month that I'd like to show you guys, and hopefully we'll get to that. All right, so let's go back and start at the beginning. See, the people that ask questions ahead of time ask, like, they sit there and think, and they hammer out like 4 or 5 different questions. So Multimedia Assassin has quite a few here. Apart from board games, do you like to play video games? And if so, what are your favorites to play? Well, I love video games. I just don't have time to play them anymore because of board games. Like, really, it's just gotten worse over time in the past. In this new year, I've had no time to play video games whatsoever. But when I was playing video games regularly, right before my board gaming obsession started, anything, I liked any kind of RPG. So the Final Fantasy series, some of the other Japanese RPGs like Disgaea, Sekuden, Suikoden, I never knew how to pronounce that, but it's one of my favorite series. And I love Breath of Fire. I also love games that have RPG elements to them, like Mass Effect, which is amazing. Mass Effect is one of my favorite game series of all time. Assassin's Creed, but I'm way behind on Assassin's Creed. Like, the last one I played, I bought Assassin's Creed 3 and barely started it, so it's just been sitting there. But that's just a smidge of the type of games I like. If I was planning on doing a top 10 video games of all time list for my optional variant series, but the Dice Tower decided to up and do that out of the blue, stealing quite a bit of my thunder, so I think I need to let some time pass before I do that, lest people say, oh, look, just like Vassal. So we'll go ahead and let some time pass. But I do have an interesting idea for a video game list that's not my top 10 of all time. If you're nice to me, maybe I'll tell you later. Can you recommend any other channels similar to yours? Well, the Dice Tower. The good thing about the Dice Tower is that if you don't like Tom has a whole crew of people. So if you don't like his opinion, you might like Ryan Metzler's opinion, or you might like the Game Boy Geek's opinion, or you might like Z Garcia's opinion, who has been putting out a lot of content in the past few months since the Kickstarter ended. So I still think the Dice Tower is the best YouTube channel about board gaming, if you don't count mine. Let's see. Do you know of any games that were anticipated but were canceled at the last minute? No. I mean, video games, yeah. There was just a very famous snafu, well, for video games, about the new Silent Hill game. But no, there's some that are very, very delayed, but not really canceled. I guess that guy from Fifth Street Games is having some major issues, and one of his games is not going to be made, like Chroma Cubes, and maybe even one other one. But I don't know. That's a really interesting question, though. Would you like to see any of the Final Fantasy games, speaking of Final Fantasy, to be turned into a board game? Yes! I was just fantasizing about this the other day. I would never do it, but assuming that I ever had a publishing company, I would call it Beagle Games, purposefully to confuse it with Eagle Games. And I would reprint a lot of these Japanese games that are really hard to find, like Heart of Crown and Dynamite Nurse Returns and Kunitori, and the games of Baka Fire that don't get a lot of love over here. But I would also love to get licensed properties that no one seems to be pursuing that heavily, or that maybe they're just really hard to get, and one of those would be Final Fantasy Tactics. I would love to see a tactical miniatures game called Final Fantasy Tactics with all the same style of miniatures from that video game, which is my favorite video game of all time, and that could have multiple modes. You can have a tactical skirmish mode that would be like a heavier version of, well, I hate to say Crossmaster. Crossmaster is really simple. This one would be much deeper than that, but you'd have the same kind of really nice miniatures moving on a board like that. And then I'd love to have a campaign mode that's like either fully cooperative or like Descent, one versus all. Man, there's just so much you could do with it. And if it had even like an inkling of the job system that Final Fantasy Tactics had, oh my god, it'd be amazing. So that's my number one pick right there, easily. I don't know that any of the other Final Fantasies would translate well into a board game, because they're not like that. They're storytelling games. But by the way, Final Fantasy Tactics is an amazing story. Don't get me wrong on that. Does YouTube pay less if someone hits the skip ad button versus watching the entire ad? That's a fantastic question, Joe. I don't know the answer to that. To be honest, I use AdSense, obviously. If you watch my channel, you know that. And it helped supplement the channel quite a bit at this point. It took a while for it to get really up there to a point where I was actually even getting a paycheck for it every month. And it's still like incredibly infinitesimally small, smaller than you might think, but still it helps. And I don't ever question it. I don't have a lot of research or data on it. I don't know what happens when someone skips an ad. I'm 99% sure that if someone uses an ad blocker, and don't do that. If you use an ad blocker, your computer will blow up. But I think if you do that, I definitely don't get any money for click through or for the traffic that comes to the channel. But I don't know. I can't. The thing is, I don't want to think too much about it, and I don't want to criticize people for it, because I totally get it if you want to skip the ads, even if it would hurt me. But I don't know the answer to that. But that's an interesting question too. Will you no longer make videos for Board Game Blender, and if so, why? No, I am planning on doing more Board Game Blenders. It's just, and I hate to say this, I like what I did with those. I think I did 4 of them, and I like Blender, and I like Z, and I like the whole team, and I want to keep contributing, and it's a great promotion for my channel, but it's still very low on my list of priorities. My number one priority is to put out original content, so to speak, on my channel, which is new reviews. And trust me, here, I'll show you. Hold on a second so I can get a good view of this. My review stack is insane. And that's, by the way, that's just a stack of like stuff that's kind of sort of a priority, or I just haven't sorted it yet. You see that shelf back there in the corner that is stacked up to the ceiling? That is other games that I haven't played that also need to be reviewed, and it's full. So that means that I have other stuff on the main shelves behind me that still needs to be reviewed. So my point in saying all that, other than to ramble as I am very wont to do, is that, I'm just adjusting the camera a bit, is that needs to be my priority. I mean, some of those games are sent to me from the publisher, including that huge box, which was Dawn: Rise of the Oculites. And I've had no time to be able to get all this stuff done. So in light of that, as fun as Blender is to do, and even though it is a very good creative outlet for me, and people love it, I've had a fantastic response, and thank you all for that, it has just not been on my priority list. And it's more work to do that than you would think, because I do write it to a degree, and I have to gather the pictures for it, and I do a lot of takes and retakes because I want it to be good, because, on my channel, I care what people think, and I want to put out a high-quality product, but in a lot of ways, I'm free to just experiment on my channel and see what works and see what doesn't work. The Loot Crate unboxing didn't work. People did not like that, but that's an example of that. But on Blender, I really want to do well, because I feel like more of my peers are judging me on that, and so I'm very, very critical of myself in that video, and so it's been very stressful. And I think I've already missed the due date for the next one, which is supposed to be Thursdays, and he gives me some leeway time, and hopefully I'll be able to knock one out. But it's not forgotten. It's not like I've decided I don't want to do it. It's just time. I'm sorry, peoples. But you will see it again, I think. Did you watch the the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight? What did you think? No. I actually think the boxing is very interesting. First off, I don't like any sports, so you're very rarely going to hear me say, yeah, I watched the sporting event. It's just not going to happen. And I'm certainly not going to watch one that was a $100 or like $150 pay-per-view. Or what was it, $200? It's a crazy amount of money for a pay-per-view special. And, you know, I'm not above like downloading stuff, but I don't think that would have been really possible, at least live. And from everything I heard, I was still interested in it, so I read like post-fight reports, and everything I read and heard was terrible. That it was a terrible, terrible fight. That it was purely just a cash-in for Mayweather, and Pacquiao was just pathetic. So whatever. You had mentioned previously that you were interested in the Weiss-Schwarz CCG. Have you had a chance to play it? My favorite sets are Madoka Magica and Baka Monogatari. I'm sure I didn't say that right. Yeah, I have several decks for the Weiss-Schwarz CCG. I just buy the trial decks. I haven't bought booster packs. And in fact, I bought another one for no particular reason. The Sword Art Online 2 deck. I don't even like Sword Art Online, but I just saw it and it was running out of stock, so I picked one up. Yeah, I'm still very interested in playing it. I haven't had a chance yet. Any two-player game is incredibly hard to play nowadays. It's just... it's hard to get other people just to come outside of the group on odd nights to come and play two-player games with me, and that's one of the ones that suffered. But it's in like the top 10 of games I need to get played, including Force of Will. I want to get played. Dawn: Rise of the Oculites, which was primarily two-player. Yomi. There's a lot of games that are two-player, and Weiss-Schwarz is just one of them. But yeah, any game that is directly based off of anime is near the top of my list. How do you store Super Dungeon Explorer? In the boxes it came in. I don't have a good solution for that. I'm not gentle with my miniatures, so I just kind of cram them all in the box. I do have enough of it now that I should think of something else, though, because I hate having it take up 3 very large spaces on my shelf. Have you tried any of the Fantasy Flight LCGs? What are your thoughts on them? I've tried several of them. I have tried Lord of the Rings, the Lord of the Rings card game, which is a cooperative game for 1 or 2 players. I was not impressed. Out of any of them, even though I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings fan, I was hoping that one would be the best because it's cooperative, because I could play it solo, because the artwork was so fantastic. But I thought it was very dry, very methodical, not exciting, and I didn't want to invest in it, so I got rid of it. I only ever had the base set. I played Netrunner. Netrunner is a fantastic game. I ended up getting rid of it only because I feel like a game like that, again, 2-player game, hard to get played, very deep, and therefore it's not something I could bust out with new people and be like, hey, let's knock out a quick 2-player game. Okay, after 30 minutes of rules explanation, we're ready to start. And on top of that, I just didn't want to pursue getting all of the expansion packs. I've played Warhammer Conquest. Felt like a more complicated smash-up. And I want to say, Game of Thrones. That one, maybe even more than Lord of the Rings, I wanted to like because of its theme. And it was very interesting, but I only played it multiplayer. And in multiplayer, more than 2 players, it's so long. It was just too rough for me. And there was also the random event cards that you drew. I can't remember what they were called. Were just too random. Like, they cost me the game. I was clearly going to win the game going into the last round of play, and then a card came out that killed all my people. I'm like, okay, that was a really fun 2.5 hours of doing nothing. So I guess what I'm saying is I personally don't recommend the Fantasy Flight LCGs, though I understand why other people would like them. Favorite 2-player game? 2-player only game? That's great. I should do a top 10 list of that. Right now, it might be Dice Masters. I'm having a lot of fun with that game. Wow, all these questions are leading into one another. Favorite DC Dice Masters character? The DC Dice Masters. Oh, man. Well, listen, if it's just purely based off of the theme and where the character's coming from, I think it's Green Lantern. I've always been a huge Green Lantern fan, but as far as interesting card mechanics, I like the Constantine cards. I love it is very random. It can be very powerful, and the kind of push your luck aspect to using him. The Flash, because I got the Flash super rare and it's just awesome. So yeah, stuff like that. But you know what? I really love the fact that DC went for some very deep cuts. I mean, Swamp Thing's in that set, Zatanna. It's great. I really love that. Blue Beetle. Top 5 favorite superheroes. Oh man, don't put me on the spot. Or actually, and before that, he asked, do you read comics? I dabble in them now, very rarely. I used to read them when I was very young. I'm talking about between like 10 and 14, all the time. Like I was one of those people that had a what do they call them now? They didn't have this name back then, or at least it wasn't common. What do they call it? A pull sheet now, where the guy at the comic shop pulls all these issues for you that you tell him to ahead of time. So, by the way, I'm going to scroll down separately just to make sure that everything's going well. Because you never know. My whole feed could have gone out and I wouldn't know, or no one can hear me. Sorry. I hate to say that right in the middle of the question. I don't do that anymore, though. I don't read comics anymore. It's just too much. I had to, pick and choose hobbies. And I went from comics into Magic the Gathering, then anime and video games. Video games was a constant. But I didn't have the time or the money for the investment anymore. Manga took over for a while, too, but that's really faded away as well. But I do have favorite superheroes. So your next question, top 5 favorite superheroes. I don't know. I can't put them in order, but I really love the Green Lantern. I've always loved Green Lantern. I've always loved Moon Knight, although I only like the old Moon Knight. I haven't even read the new one. It's really a great question, actually. Batman. I mean, Batman's great. I like Darkhawk a lot. I'm saying Darkhawk, damn it. I was going to say Kitty Pryde. What am I? I'm blanking on her name for now. Shadowcat. Wow. I kept wanting to say like Shadowcrawler, like Nightcrawler. I also missed another question up there. What do you think about the Crisis board game on Kickstarter? I think this is hilarious, and I posted about this on Facebook. Maybe about 2 years ago on Kickstarter, Queen Games did Darker Darkest, which is a terrible game and a total cluster F for them. Disaster. I mean, they could not give that thing away on Cool Stuff. Although my friend Aaron was all in on everything on the Kickstarter and says it's a great game, just give it a chance. No, it's terrible. But anyways, during that Kickstarter, they were offering Crisis, the analog edition, which is what the full name of this board game is, based off of a sci-fi shoot 'em up game where you have like nanosuits and stuff. They were offering that as an add-on. And people were like, what is this? Where did this even come from? There's a board game based on Crisis. And this is back when Crisis, I think, had just had its 3rd game, something like that. So it's still kind of fresh in gamers' minds. And they're like, yeah, we're going to produce this game. And now you can get it on the ground floor. And a lot of people pledged for it. Then nothing happened. No news, no artwork, no nothing, no idea what the gameplay was like. And then time went on and on and on. And I think other Kickstarters were letting people pledge for it as well. And then nothing happened. And finally, Queen separated from the development company that was making Crisis and just said, okay, you're on your own. So my question is, did everyone get their money back for those pledges? I hope so. Queen Games has a very bad reputation, especially with regards to their Kickstarter projects. There's some companies, I don't even know how they're in business anymore, and Queen is one of them, and I don't know how they're so big. It's just because they have a large volume, I guess. But this Crisis thing is just hilarious to me, that this game came out of nowhere, nothing happened with it, Queen dropped it before it was even released, and now it's on Kickstarter on its own. It's ridiculous. And it doesn't look that good either. Do you record your videos and video sound separately, or how do you do it? I am using by the way, this guy's name is Board Game Swede. That's great. Is that the name of your channel too? I am using a pretty decent camera, but it's not really made for recording video, so I have to amplify the volume in Audacity. Well, I've always... Okay, here's how it was for the first year or so of my channel. I used my blue microphone here, which is a fantastic microphone and cheap as hell. And it sounds pretty good, right? I think it sounds pretty good. Well, now although this thing is loose, I only use this for live Q&As and whenever I record stuff for podcasts like the Dice Tower. Now I have, since I got a brand new camera from one of my generous listeners or viewers, I got a pretty cheap sort of, I don't know what you call it, kind of a boom mic type thing that attaches to the camera. It's in the other room. I'll show it to you, but it's pretty inexpensive. You can look online. If it's for DSLR cameras, like it's compatible with those. So if you look up mics for DSLR cameras that are under $100, you'd find it. And it works pretty well. When I am doing the overviews, however, so I have 3 different mics, which is a pain. I have a lapel mic because for overviews, that boom mic just doesn't work because I'm constantly hovering around the edges of it. And so there are some videos that I've done in the past like 6 months or so that people were complaining about the audio, and that's why during the overview. So I got rid of that idea and just went with lapel mic, which still sounds weird, but it's better because at least I can walk around the table when I'm doing the setup and I don't have to worry about the audio. So I don't know if that helps, but that's how I do it. There was a brief period of time before I had that boom mic where I had the DSLR camera and was still recording with the blue microphone. And in that instance, I had to use Audacity to record my audio and then sync it up to my lips on the video. And that was such a pain in the ass. And I'm never doing that again. So lapel mic it is. I'm sorry I keep riling the camera, by the way. Salvatore Ruffalo says, Nick, is there a way for your viewers to vote on what games they would like you to review? You vote by saying stuff. I read all the comments on every one of my videos every day. I don't have the time to respond to them all unless I think it's really pertinent. But I read them all. And emails. If you send me an email, I will read it. Again, depending on the question, depending on what it is, I may or may not respond, which is not... it just depends. I get a lot of email. So that's how you would vote. If I get enough interest in something, I will pursue it. For instance, I got a lot of requests for 3 Kingdoms Redux. Enough that it's over on my side. I just don't feel like getting up. I got a lot of requests for that, and I finally contacted the publisher, worked out a deal where they paid for the game, and I just paid for the shipping, and I got the game. Because it's a very expensive game and kind of hard to find right now. So I'll be reviewing that hopefully soon, within the next couple of weeks. So yeah, it happens. If I get enough requests, I'll look into something, for sure. But I get so many games nowadays that chances are, if there's a game you want me to review, I probably already have it on my radar. It's maybe even in my stack already. I just haven't had the time to get to it. Have you played either Formula D or Thunder Alley? What are your thoughts on these racing games? I have not played either of them. I would be interested in giving either of them a try, but they're not games that thematically appeal to me, so I'll not pursue them on my own. I'm not going to pick up a copy. If the publishers would love to send me a copy, I'd be more than happy to give it a try. I doubt that's ever going to happen, but they seem interesting. I'm just not into racing games, especially games that are literally based off of car racing. Not my thing. Which Thunderstone Advanced set do you recommend I start with? Let's see. There's 3 now? Worlds Collide, I think. At least 3. Worlds Collide, Numenera, and the Towers of Ruin. Just go with Towers of Ruin. Numenera is fine. It's got some frilly stuff to it and a little more complicated mechanics that are cool, and I like it. It's a great set, but just keep it simple. Go with Towers of Ruin. You can't go wrong with it. Sorry. As the new master of the house in Tanto Cuore, if you could only pick one maid, who would it be and why? I don't know them by name. I'm sorry. I'm also ashamed to answer that question. No. I like the one that if you have too many of her, if you have a certain amount of her, you get a lot of points. But if you have too many of her, there's several cards like that. But I think those are fascinating. I think they're in Romantic Vacation. Don't make me answer that question. That's ridiculous. What are your thoughts on the sometimes very high shipping costs of games on Kickstarter, especially to the EU? I feel very, very badly for people who live outside of the U.S. who are trying to pledge for U.S.-based Kickstarters. It's ridiculous. I can't fathom the shipping cost sometimes. And I'll tell you what, that game Assassinorum Execution Force for Games Workshop, when I first posted that on Facebook that I was thinking of doing that, I accidentally linked to the Games Workshop splits up their pages by country. So I accidentally linked to the New Zealand page for that game, and it ended up being like $262 instead of $125, which was the cost American, and people were freaking out. And what that is because that was including the shipping costs, which were that much more to ship to New Zealand. And I hear this all the time I have a few fans in particular from Australia who are always commenting on my posts on Facebook, who complain about the shipping costs, and rightfully so, because it's absurd. So shipping is like the bane of all Kickstarter projects, and I sympathize with the backers who want to back the game, or potential backers who want to back it who can't because of how high that cost is and can't justify it. I totally understand that. But at the same time, I sympathize with the project creators, some of whom, some of them maybe slack off on it and don't try that hard to get a great shipping deal. A lot of them, especially the major Kickstarter creators, do as much work as they possibly can to get that shipping cost as low as possible and still make a smidge of profit off of these games. And it's, trust me, they want to sell as many games as possible. They want to make it easy for people. But between customs and going to all these different, just different shipping companies that they have to use and warehouses in other countries, it sounds like a logistical nightmare. So my thoughts on it are that it sucks. And I wish that we could do something about shipping in this world. Everything is going to be fine when Amazon just takes over the world. Okay, they'll make sure everything goes smoothly. How do you value your game's worth when you do a math trade? Do you look up the spellboy.com graphs? I don't even know what that is. I've never heard of that. Spellboy.com. I know this camera's rattling like a MFer. What? Spielboy. Oh! I was like, wow, that's just a spell checker. That's not spelled right either. This is probably a waste of time. Let me see. Board game pricing. Interesting. Use this game page to see historical pricing data for board game sales on BoardGameGeek.com. Well, there's your problem. I never go off of Board Game Geek's prices. If you do, I don't know how people ever sell games in the Board Game Geek marketplace. I use eBay because people overprice their games. They overprice them even without shipping. It's silly. So I don't use that for sure. How do I value them? I value them as, okay, here's what I paid for it. Here's approximately what it's probably worth now that I've opened it and played it. And am I willing to trade this game for that game? That's it. And sometimes I'm willing to trade a game that's probably going to be out of my favor to trade a game for a game. But if I really want that game and I think that this is the only thing that person would be interested in, or I want to make it appealing. If you try to do equal math trades, you are going to have an incredibly low trade percentage in math trades. That's the thing. You always are going to need to risk it or commit more than you think you're getting in return to get a high volume of math trades trading going during a math trade. That's my opinion. And I think it's actually fact. What is your favorite snacks to eat while gaming? Oh boy, I don't have a favorite. I just drink a lot of coffee. I drink occasionally, like alcoholic beverages. As far as snacks go, a lot of chips are eaten. I always encourage people to use paper towels. I like, I don't know. There's nothing consistent that we eat. Everyone always brings something different. It's the nature of our group. Cheeses. I like when people bring cheese and meat platters. Those are cool. Nick, how do you store all the different editions of Love Letter and Lost Legacy? The bags stink. I need something better. Do they stink like Drakon or just stink in general? No, I know. Well, let's see. I have 3 versions of Love Letter right now, and I don't think it's worth it to get rid of them, so I guess I'll always have them. The bags, which for the original AEG version and for the Batman one, just kind of sit there like lumps and take up an awkward amount of space on my shelf. The Kanai Factory Edition is in a little box and snacks neatly with everything else. And I think the Adventure Time one, which hopefully will be the last version of Love Letter I buy, but I have to have it, will also come in a box, it looks like. As far as Lost Legacy is now easier because I have Lost Legacy Legend. Did I ever show you guys that? All right, I'll get up for this one. Here. Lost Legacy Legend, which my box is dinged up, actually. It's not a very good quality box, but I have the 3 original Japanese Lost Legacy sets that I have, and then all of the new decks that come in Lost Legacy Legend. There's 9 brand new Lost Legacy decks in Lost Legacy Legend, and they are all in Japanese, which has made it very difficult to get this played. But there is a dedicated cadre of fans on Board Game Geek, if you go to the Board Game Geek entry for Lost Legacy Legend, who are trying their absolute best to get paste ups and translations for all the sets. It's hard. It's 9 different decks of cards, but hopefully I'll work it out and play it. But that's how I store it, so I'm cheating. Any kind of Magic card box would be great, right? Well, without spoiling Monday's Kickstarter update, what can you say about Crisis? Well, I already talked about Crisis. I already spoiled it. I think it's hilarious and doesn't look like a very good game. Nick, what's the best way for us to let Board Game Bliss know you sent us when we order games? Well, you can send them an email, and there's also a comment section when you purchase a product or are about to purchase a product. I think there's like a little note thing down in the bottom. Yeah, I order from them a couple times a month, and I think they still have that thing down there. So yeah, you don't have to do that. I would love it if you do, because it's nice for the sponsor to know that we're having an effect and we're bringing in some sales. And I do genuinely think that they're a great retailer, regardless of their sponsorship of me or not. And if you guys want to let them know that, whether through email or for that comment section, I would certainly be very grateful. What are your thoughts on the games of the Oniverse, which would be Onirum, Urbian, etc.? Well, that would also include Sylveon, now wouldn't it? I have played Onirum and I've played Urbion, and it's funny because if you go back, I don't recommend this, but if you go back and watch the very first news update I ever did for this channel back in July or August of 2013, you will see that I tell people in the midst of all my wild rambling and terrible camera visuals that one of the games I'll be reviewing very soon is Onirum. Fast forward to now, and I have not done that, which should give you some indication of what I'm like about keeping to my commitments as far as review dates. But it's great. So is Urbian. I might even like Urbian a little bit more, but I have the new edition of Onirum, which comes in a big box with a bunch of different expansions and a bunch of new cards. I need to play that. The great thing is that it's solo, so I can get that play whenever I really feel inclined to. Same thing with Sylveon. I believe it is for, 1 or 2 players. I did play Onirum with 2 players, too. That was pretty interesting. And I'm really looking forward to this. The visuals for this game, it was rough for me at first when I first got Onirum, but it has really grown on me. So they're all pretty beautiful, quite honestly. So you will see Sylveon very soon, and I think I'll do Onirum and Urbian together with it. I'd like to do like a 3-parter of that all at once. Okay, Jeff is saying the same thing I said about Board Game Bliss. Great, thank you, Jeff. And we're back to where we started tonight. Lots of questions. That's great. What is wrong with you? You scheduled your Q&A up against the Dice Tower's live play of Mission Red Planet, your favorite. Yeah, well, here's the deal. I had my live Q&A scheduled from last Saturday or Sunday, but Tom is a jerk. He doesn't bother to even look at my channel. He doesn't care about how I schedule things. This is exactly why I did a live play of Star Wars: The Queen's Gambit last year, the end of last year, early beginning of this year. And a few days later, Tom says, hey, we're doing a live play of Queen's Gambit this week. And, just because he doesn't care about my channel or watch my channel, which is just the truth. I think he still thinks I have 800 subscribers. So I am not gonna change the schedule of my Q&As. I'm sure if you guys are interested, you can watch them both. What's with the beginnings of a Grizzly Adams beard? Well, I just decided it comes and goes. Sometimes I want my beard, sometimes I don't. There you go. During the majority Kickstarter, they also had an option to add tricks and desserts. It's another Japanese game with some interesting mechanics. Any thoughts on that game? I don't even know anything about it. I didn't back the majority Kickstarter. It was sent to me by the publisher. So I don't have any thoughts on it. Sounds interesting. By the way, your channel is awesome. Thank you. What is the best FPS of all time first-person shooter? Fallout. Would you call that an FPS? It's got an FPS type heads-up display. I'm saying Fallout. Nick, Oh, okay. Jeff is saying, Nick, it would be easiest if Board Game Bliss has a small discount code that would help them show people are buying due to you. Maybe even a 5% discount would work just for their tracking reasons. Now, this was one of the very first things I suggested to Bosco, the owner of Board Game Bliss, and for him it just wasn't economically feasible, I think. I think he was kind of worried about what kind of volume that might bring, how it would affect his sales. It's something that I thought of it right away, though, when I suggested it to him, and I acquiesced, so it wasn't a huge deal to me. But yeah, it's a great idea. I was kind of inspired to bring it up because of all the podcasts I listen to on the Earwolf Network, who do they do plugs for like Loot Crate and Squarespace and a lot of other companies, lynda.com, and when they always have a product code that you can enter. So like I listen to Cracked podcast, and they would say go to Loot Crate, enter Cracked on the buy page, and you'll get $5 off. I would love to do that, but it wasn't in the cards for Bosco and for Board Game Bliss. But maybe in the future, maybe I'll hit him up again on that. I think it's just an interesting idea. I love the really old school RPGs like the Ultima series. What? Just rambling, Kabuki Kid. Did you used to play PC games or only console games? Only console games. Only because I never had a decent computer growing up. And even now I don't have a great computer. But because of that, I was console all the way. And just because, I grew up at the age of Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo. So, of course, it was one of the golden ages of gaming. So that was my focus. I'm more willing to do PC games now than I probably will. Have you ever tried Agents of Smersh? I thought it was much more of a game than Arabian's Nights. I agree with you there, and I actually briefly owned Agents of Smersh. It didn't work for me. This was before I had my channel, otherwise I would have reviewed it before I got rid of it. I still felt the same way about it. It just still kind of felt like it wasn't totally random chaos. Like you said, it was more of a game. I'm kind of struggling to remember some of the mechanics at this point. It just wasn't a great time for me or my group. But I have thought about giving it another chance now that I've had a more wider breadth of experience with games that are of a storytelling nature. We shall see. Do you know Tom is also doing a live stream now? Yes, I know. He scheduled it up against mine. I had mine first. I don't know what to do about it. It's really, really frustrating. I am new to Kickstarter. Do most projects take much longer than stated? What is the longest you have waited? Yes, every Kickstarter project I have ever encountered personally has taken longer than they said on the project page. Sometimes it's only a few weeks longer. I've had that happen a couple times, or like a month longer. Not a huge deal. Even when Kickstarter projects are 3 to 4 months late, I'm like, fantastic, great job, because most Kickstarter projects are longer than that. It is a sad reality of Kickstarter. If you see an estimated time on the project page, know that it is not necessarily a lie. It is a Kickstarter project creator trying their absolute best to be optimistic, but they know in the back of their minds that it's just naive, that it's never going to happen. The longest I have waited, am still waiting for, is Kingdom Death Monster, which was the first or second project I ever backed on Kickstarter in December of 2012. Yeah. And so therefore, it's been 2.5 years. I think it supposedly almost everything is finished, and they're getting ready to ship it out in July. We'll see. But that project creator has done an amazing job with his updates of keeping people on the hook for it. So people are still excited. Are you a synth pop or new wave fan? Do you follow any new electro like Ladytron? I've heard of Ladytron. I don't know much about them. I'm not as into music as I used to be. I'm trying to get back into it and load up my MP3 player with new stuff. I'm getting back into rap a little bit, which is interesting, but also a lot of indie music that I'd missed. I am addicted to Drake right now. I don't know. That album of his is just amazing. It's so great. But I love Depeche Mode. I think you would consider that sort of a synth pop new wave type band. I love a lot of those 80s bands. I still love The Cure to this day. We'll do my top 10 bands eventually on optional variants. What theme would you like to see implemented more in board games? Ooh, that's a great question. More in board games. Dinosaurs. That's probably enough dinosaur games now. I don't know. I love anime themes. I don't think there's enough of those that are good. How about that? Force of will to counter your ancestral recall. That is great. Force of will. It's amazing. Every now and then on cool stuff on their daily sales, they'll sell copies of Force of Will, the card for Magic, not the game. And it goes for like $80 and $90 because it's such an amazing card. If you don't know, in Force of Will, it won't mean anything to you if you don't know about Magic. But Force of Will was a counter spell that was very expensive if you just tried to hard cast it. But what was it? You could like pay life and discard the card instead to just counter a spell. I think that's how it works. It's just a very easy counter spell to use, and counter spells are amazing in Magic. And I think that's why they neutered them quite a bit in the last decade or so. But the thing is, and you really have to play Magic a lot to understand this. It's a simple concept, but it's hard to wrap your head around. When you first learn Magic, you're taught that your life points are everything. That if you start off at 20, you want to keep it as high as possible because you don't want to die. But the reality of the situation is that the only life totals that the only total that matters, so the only life point total that matters in Magic is 0. You just don't want to be at 0. Anything else is fine. It's just a resource for you to spend. And that's why cards like Force of Will are amazing. I don't know why I ranted about that, but I just thought it was a pretty interesting topic that you brought up. Have you ever played the old BattleTech CCG? I always felt it was a better game than Magic. I never have. I very, very briefly played BattleTech, though, and that was okay. Hey, Nick, thanks for the Q&A. Personal life going okay? It's been better. I'm very stressed out from work. I'm trying to lose weight because if you go watch my early videos up till now, you can see that I've gained a lot of weight, and I'm not too happy about it. I don't know. Let's see. Dating life sucks right now. I'm way too busy to do anything anyways. But hey, it could be worse. I have my health such as it is. And I have my dog. She's amazing. And my channel is going well. As stressful as it is, I can't seem to break over the 10,000 hump. But hey, compared to other people's problems, I really cannot complain. Nick, are you going to... Hold on. I think I skipped a bunch of questions. Sorry. I'm trying to play catch up. Nick, are you going to grow a massive unkempt hipster beard? Where's your wool cap? I'm also... Look up... there's a great meme that was going around. I think it was originally a tweet that's of... there's a picture of these two guys sitting in like a coffee shop, and it's like at the top it says, question... quiz, are these hipsters or Civil War reenactors? No, I'm not going to have a huge unkempt hipster beard. A good friend of mine who's in my board gaming group, Ian, has an unkempt hipster beard. And it's fine. It works for him. I don't think it would work for me. It's going to get, I'm going to let it get a little bit longer than this so that it's a substantial beard. And then I'm going to stop. And I'm going to dye my beard as well. I'll go ahead and reveal that now. I hate all the gray hair in my beard. So I dye it whenever I let it get this long. And I'm not into the Colin Farrell wool cap. Sorry. I don't remember you commenting on the artwork in the Norse Saga review. The designers made numerous Sentinels of the Multiverse fan expansions, and Norse Saga looked like them. First off, I did not do a review of Norse Saga. That was a paid preview. So I was not going to say anything negative about that, and I still won't now because the game has not been released, and that's not fair to the person who paid me for the preview. But what I will say, sort of objectively, I thought the artwork was better than Sentinels of the Multiverse because I just thought it was a little bit of a different style. I can see where you're going with that, though. It was somewhat similar, and I don't think it was... Okay, I guess I am reviewing the artwork a little bit. I don't think it was fantastic, but I still thought it was more unique and a better fit for that game than Sentinels of the Multiverse. Nick, any interest in Dune the Dice game? Zero interest. First off, I don't have the time to do a print and play right now. I have no attachment to the Dune theme. I never read the books. I never watched the movie. I have an ex who loved Dune, and therefore it's a bit soured for me because I'm just that kind of revenge-stricken guy. And I've also heard, what's his name, Jamie from the Secret Cabal, played it and reviewed it and said it was way long and very, very random. So, no. Any other Vertigo characters in Dice Masters other than Constantine? Was Swamp Thing ever a Vertigo character? I don't know that he ever made the jump into the Vertigo line. But if for those of you who don't know, Vertigo was like an imprint of DC Comics where they had all their really dark, mature themed comics. And some, I mean, technically, I think some of them, like Sandman, which is probably the most notable of the Vertigo line from Neil Gaiman, that technically took place in the DC Comics universe with superheroes. In fact, Martian Manhunter had a brief cameo in one of the issues, but it was still a very separate set of storylines. So I know Constantine is. I think Swamp Thing may or may not have been on the Vertigo imprint, and he's in the game. No one from the Sandman family. Maybe not anyone else. No Preacher, that's for sure. No. But remember that the reason that Constantine was because they dragged him back into the New 52, and he was a member of the, I think, Justice League Dark with Zatanna, which I never read. I'd like to read. I think it got canceled, but I still think it's an interesting premise. I'd like to read that, the collected compendium edition at some point. So I think that that's the only reason he's in the game. Which Cerberus deck building game is your favorite? I only have the Street Fighter one and was wondering if I should get any of the other ones since I know they can be mixed together. First off, I know that one of the big selling points for the Cerberus games is that they can be mixed together. The problem with that is that there's enough new mechanisms in each one that doing that is very, very problematic. The Street Fighter characters in particular, because the Street Fighter characters have that whole mechanism of how they can, the counterattack mechanism and how you can shove a card, let's say their super card, underneath their character. That, at least in that form, is not in any of the other deck builders from Cryptozoic, the Cerberus engine deck builders. Same thing with Naruto, because Naruto has the chakra, and no other character card in any of the other Cerberus games has the chakra points and the ability to do that. So it's very difficult to mix these games together. DC has the most malleable stuff in it, meaning that you could pick up and port their stuff into the other games very easily, I think, but not the characters, because they would be underpowered compared to the other characters in those games, I think. Having said that, what's my favorite of them? I'm going to say the DC Comics deck building game because there's so much content for it, and because I like to keep the Cerberus deck builder separate, that's my favorite because of that. But the Naruto deck building game's mechanisms are way more interesting than the other ones. The chakra points, the positive attacks, it all just works much, much better. There's a couple of other new things, like something like when you buy certain cards in the row, an effect happens in Naruto. They really experimented with that game, and I think it works really, really well. And I wish that some of those ideas would sort of migrate into the other Cerberus deck builders, like the hockey one. Is that even out yet? I'm not above trying that, by the way. Nick, are you picking up the Magic the Gathering board game? Sure. I actually have 1 or 2 mules who will be going to Gen Con and have offered to pick up games for me. In fact, one of my friends who's going there is going to be a volunteer for Greater Than Games, and therefore might have access to the merchant hall early, which would be great. And he says he's bringing an extra suitcase just for bringing games back, and I'm like, ooh. So he's a super nice guy. He said he'd give me some stuff, although the Magic the Gathering board game is probably going to be like a coffin box size board game, so I don't know how much space that's going to take, but that'll be premiering at Gen Con. And yeah, I think so. I think it'd be great. I still like Magic. I still love the theme of Magic. I love the Planeswalkers. When I got back into Magic, I had no idea there were Planeswalker cards, and when I saw them, I'm like, that's amazing. That is the best thing they've ever done to Magic. I don't know how dedicated Magic players feel about them overall, but I love them. So I love the idea of playing with them in a miniatures tactical skirmish game that is based off of HeroScape. So yeah, I'm on board. I can't wait to get it. Did you do anything for Tabletop Day? Yeah, I went down to Vassal's big Cool Stuff meetup because it's the biggest conglomeration of gamers down here. There were some really frustrating raffles where they were raffling off the promos, like the Felicia Day promo, which is absurd. And I didn't. So of course I didn't get one. But I still am ahead on the deal because the very first raffle they ever did down at Cool Stuff for the first Tabletop Day, I won the Takanoko Collector's Edition. What about Free Comic Book Day? No interest in that. Queen refunded the paid amounts of Crisis backers paid. I know this from my experience. Okay, good. I figured that they would. I still think the whole situation is comical. Have you seen Legends of Tomorrow and Supergirl trailers? If so, your thoughts. I didn't see a trailer for Legends of Tomorrow, but I've read articles about it and who was going to be involved in it. I hate the name. That was a perfect opportunity for them to do Brave and the Bold or some other name. It's a terrible name. I don't even understand it really. Although I know it's because there's a guy that comes back from the future, is it Rip Hunter or Rip Turner or something like that. It's probably an actor. But I'm still excited for it because I love these new DC shows. Supergirl, I'm withholding my judgment on Supergirl. I'm on board with it as far as I love the Supergirl character. Like, I don't get attached to female. I don't like to be one of those guys that says like, oh man, I had a thing for this comic book character because I think it's kind of creepy and weird. But I still kind of had a thing for Supergirl. And even though I can't stand Superman or the extended Superman family of characters for the most part, but I liked Supergirl a lot. And I was excited for this. And parts of the very long trailer for Supergirl are really interesting. I think the action can be done very well. And I think that if they go in a direction like The Flash, it'll be incredible because The Flash is incredible. And I'd love to see what they can do with that with a female lead, which is it's well-deserved. That's long overdue. Having said that, I was very disappointed that they decided to go in sort of the stereotypical girl format show. That's weird. But in the sense that they went with like Devil Wears Prada type situation where she works for a designing company and her boss is like this... what's her name? Sharon Stone type character. I don't know. It just seemed very odd and it seemed very cheesy. And I hope that it's not like a rom-com. I hope it's not The Adventures of Lois and Clark all over again. Let me put it that way. But I'm withholding final judgment and I am definitely going to give it a shot. Nick, do you say by accident or on accident? That's a great question. I'm thinking back. I think I say on accident. No. That sounds weird in my mouth. By accident. By accident. I think I say by accident. I think so. Have you played Snowtails, a dog sled racing game? No, I haven't. Although that, as opposed to those other racing games that we talked about earlier, is one I'd really like to try because it involves dogs, which is cool. And it has a sequel, too. Do you know when the 2015 Spiel des Jahres nominations will be released? Are you planning on reviewing them? Actually, I think it's coming up. I think it's this Monday. Because I thought I read an article somewhere that was talking about it and said it would be in a couple of weeks. I would not be surprised if it's either this Monday or next Monday. I think it's definitely after a weekend. And I don't think they'd want to do it on Memorial Day. Although, no, that doesn't make any sense. It's from Germany. But I think it's very, very soon. Am I planning on reviewing them? Hopefully, I've reviewed some of them already. Because I've been kind of more up on new board game releases that have been available. Even if I've had to import them. But yes, I would make a special effort to do that because of the attention that's on them. I wasn't always successful in that. I still haven't played Camel Up, and I have no interest in doing so. But I think I got to Splendor and Concept, and did I do any of the Istanbul? I didn't do Concordia yet, which was one of the nominees last year, I believe. But I tried my best. If you were on a boat sailing... Okay, wow, this was like a very involved question. If you were on a boat sailing off the edge of the world, what game would you want to be playing and with who? While I ponder this question, 7-Eleven has a sale on product placement. You know, when I set the monetization for my videos, that's an option. It says, do you have a paid product placement in this video? And I always think, man, well, that'd be amazing. I am totally not above that. All right, back to your question. If I was a boat sailing off the edge of the world, what game would you want to be playing and with who? I don't have any answer to that question. There's no one I'd really want to... There's no person I care about enough, individual person I'd care about enough at this point that I would want to be playing a game with them when I'm about to die. So I'll say a random viewer from the audience in appreciation. And as for the game, Seasons, sure. Do you read sci-fi? Who is your favorite author? And if so, my favorite is Robert Heinlein. I don't read enough hard science fiction. I never did. I was always more about fantasy. Of the ones that I did, I read Larry Niven's Ringworld series. That was really good. Who is the author that did the Gill the Hand series of like this future detective who is really interesting. It was like an anthological series of this detective who solved like sci-fi crimes, and he was called the Hands because he masturbated a lot. No, because he got his arm cut off at some point, and because it's the future, he also had his arm reattached or grew back, like cloned or something. But he had dormant psychic powers, and while his arm was cut off, you know how people have phantom limb syndrome? He had a phantom psychic hand that he could use to manipulate objects. It wasn't like super powered. It was just like a hand that he could lift stuff up with. But it was invisible. Only he could detect it and sense it and use it. And when he got his arm back, he still had it. He still had the phantom hand. And boy, now that I'm saying this, it sounds freaking ridiculous. So how about this one? There was a series I also can't remember the name or author of, and I'd love to remember because I'd love to go back and read them and see if they're still good. But there was this race of psychic beings who would become I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. They would go into host bodies, willing host bodies, people who are willing to take them in and live in perfect symbiosis, sort of like those beings from Deep Space Nine, like the Daxes with the dots. And they started like an order where they became like space samurai. And I thought that was a great series. What is your favorite drinking game? Drinking is my favorite drinking game. I got a request to do a drinking game the other day for review, and I told the woman who was publishing it very politely, this is not something. If you can send this to me for review, and I can promise you that it will be a negative review. So I'm telling you not to do that. There is no hope of this game where you write on little knickknacks ideas for your friends to do, like Truth or Dare, while drinking. There's no chance I will like this game, so I'm telling you not to send it to me. And please go and I said this very politely, and please go and play these party games, naming a bunch of famous gamerly party games, and hopefully get some inspiration as to how you can make a better game. Mexican Coca-Cola, is that because it's got like pure cane sugar in it? Yeah. I've had that because they were doing that for a while with some of the Pepsi products that they had. Throwback Mountain Dew made with pure sugar. That was awesome. You can't find it anywhere now. I'm sure some places still have it. Have you ever thought of turning one of your favorite board games into a drinking game? If so, which one would it be? No. If you mean like literally every time this happens, have a drink. Maybe Cards Against Humanity every time someone mentions penis or vagina. No, I don't know. I like drinking during games. I don't mind, getting a little loose and that, but to actually have a drinking game where you drink until you're blackout drunk, it's just not going to work in my group. But if you want to do it, fine. Are you going to see the new Mad Max movie? Have you seen the old movies? I saw the old movies when I was a kid. I can't remember anything about them. I don't know if I liked them or not. I doubt that they would hold up well for me because a lot of things from my childhood do not hold up well for me. But I had zero interest in seeing the new Mad Max until I started seeing reviews, including people who I know are really hard critics, like the AV Club, who think it's amazing. And the movie has like a 90 on Metacritic the last time I checked. So I think I have to see it. I was really skeptical seeing the trailers. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be a piece of garbage. And I was shocked when I saw how many people loved it. Are you considering reviewing the new reprint of Mission Red Planet? Do you think the new add-ons will change the game? I doubt it. If they want to send me a copy, which I doubt because I'm not on Asmodee's radar, let alone review list, I would do it, but I don't like the game. It's okay. It's like very mediocre. And I don't think that anything I saw as far as the add-ons or the new components changed my mind. Chocolate or strawberry Bosco? Bosco! Bosco! That's a joke that 2% of you will understand. How do you like storytelling in games? Do you prefer explicit storytelling games or other kinds of games that nurture storytelling through their theme and mechanics? I can't believe it's 10 p.m. already. I've been talking for an hour. That's insanity. I'm going to go a little bit extra because I know I've talked too much. I like games that don't force it. That's why I hate games like Story War, but that's the extreme example. But even Once Upon a Time, which was an okay game, forced it a bit too much. I prefer when games can come out through the mechanics, and that's why I like Descent, which is kind of a generic system and theme, but you can easily spin that off and do as much role-playing as you want. I promised you guys I would show you some of the new games. I have to get to that because I feel bad now. So I'm just going to show you these. And by the way, I'm showing you these because they're new and they're on the horizon of things I'm going to review. It's not an implicit endorsement of any of these because a couple of them look awful. So here we have Bang, the Walking Dead dice game. This is the Walking Dead version of Bang. Hold on, I'm going to go to my other view so I can actually make sure these are showing up on camera. So yeah, there's that. We have the Epic Spell Wars of the Battle Wizards Rumble at Castle Tentakill. I never played the original Epic Spell Wars, but I thought I'd jump on it with this one and see if I actually liked it or not. I always threatened to buy the original and never got around to it. This is a game I know I'm probably going to like. That would be Super Fantasy Night of the Badly Dead, sorry for the glare, which is the sequel, standalone sequel. It can be integrated with the original Super Fantasy, which is also on my shelf, which I have to review as well, so I'll probably review both of them back to back. This looks really fascinating to me, and you got to look this up online. Dimension, an abstract game. I don't buy a lot of abstract games. This seems very, very cool to me. So it's about stacking these balls. I just love playing with balls. This Stones of Fate, sent to me from the publisher. Don't know too much about it. Seems interesting. Strife, Legacy of the Eternals. I've actually already played this on Tabletop Day, actually. And it was interesting. Interesting enough that for the price, I was willing to pick up my own copy and review it. What else have we got? Bright Future, a post-apocalyptic board game. It looks interesting. I don't know if it's going to be great or not. Sent to me from the publisher. I'm willing to give it a shot. Also, this was actually given to me by a fan, a member of my group, Dead Apocalypse, a deck-building game with really terrible artwork. So I'm very skeptical of it, but we'll see. A long-forgotten party game from Cryptozoic that I got from Board Game Bliss, because that's what Board Game Bliss is good for, finding, among many things, is finding hard-to-find games. Word Whimsy, which is kind of an apples-to-apples Cards Against Humanity type game, but with an interesting twist. I got an RPG that I backed like over almost 2 years ago on Kickstarter. OVA, the anime RPG, which is probably going to collect dust because it's hard. It's impossible to get people to play RPGs with me. But maybe I'm wrong. Let's see. Another gift from a fan in my group, Alchemy. He got 2 copies on Kickstarter and gave one to me. I don't know anything about it. Here's a couple of infamous games for different reasons, though. Lap Dance. I posted about this on Facebook, so some of you already know that I have it. I should be playing that tomorrow. It's one of the reviews I'm trying to fast track. And then I've been talking quite a lot about this one, Spectre Ops. I finally got my own copy from Flat Hat, and I've already played it once, and so far, positive, very positive. And I think that's all I'm going to show you for right now. Let me answer a few more questions, and then we're going to wrap it up. Did you back Hostage Negotiator? Apparently that's about to ship. Some lucky folk already got early copies. No, I didn't back it. I kind of regret that I didn't because I do want to play more solo games so I can make a top 10 list, but I will probably end up pre-ordering the retail edition of it. Almost 3 years for Kingdom Death? Yes, I know. Which do you like better, Legendary and... Oh, shit. Sorry. Oops. I got chewed out for cursing, by the way, but I still do it. I lost my place. Sorry. That was a good question, too. What do you like better, Legendary Encounters or Xenoshift? I'm going to say Legendary Encounters. The more I play them both, the Legendary Encounters is more my kind of game. It's more deck buildy to me. But Xenoshift is pretty great. It just feels different. It's not as much of a deck builder. I question whether or not I'm even going to consider it for my top 10 deck buildings list, but we'll see. Any ideas on what the Alien expansion may be for Legendary Encounters Alien? I don't know. Yeah, they are talking about a separate Alien expansion, right? I don't know. I would be perfectly content if they made brand new content. New storyline, new characters. Go for it. Who cares? Force of Will is 1 life and discard a blue card. Okay, that's it. Still pretty good. Oh, wow. I'm so far behind, guys. I'm so sorry. Maybe I'm not. Where is the Mad Max board game, or is Car Wars the answer to that? I hope not, because Car Wars looks terrible. That is an old school game I am not interested in. Hey, Kabuki Kid, I'm so sorry to keep bragging on your games. I know you like these old school games. It's just not for me, but you definitely need to play with Jason Levine from the Dice Tower, because you and he would get along. You'd be thick as thieves, because you all like the same games. Have there been any Kickstarters that you wanted to get, but they fell short on their goals? Sure. As a matter of fact, talking about earlier, I talked about Final Fantasy Tactics, a board game. The company that did, I think they changed their name since then, but the company who did March of the Ants, which is an okay game, originally their first Kickstarter was for a game called something Tactics, Grand's Tactics, I think it was, which was directly, I mean, it was based off of Final Fantasy Tactics. Like, chibi characters looked the same, tactical miniatures combat, there were chemists and squires, and I was on board with it, and it tried to fund twice and never made it. I even talked about it the second time on my Kickstarter update, because I had started it by then, and it just couldn't make it. Great job, Nick. Hey, if you ever want to move from one red state to another, come down to Texas. I think I'm done with red states if I can avoid it. I would love to go up to Vermont, New Hampshire, something like that. Spite hate for Dune. Yeah, I know. I'm just like that sometime. Planeswalkers are somewhat game-changing. Jace the Mind Sculptor was a mistake. I think Planeswalkers in general are very game-changing, but I think that's fine, right? Don't you need to change the metagame sometimes? But Jace the Mind Sculptor was a mistake, an admitted mistake. They knew he was powerful because, of course, you're going to have cards in Magic that are more powerful. That's why there's an aftermarket for cards. But I don't think that they willingly let him linger that long. They really wanted to see just how much of an impact he would have, and it turned out to be a monumental impact on the game. And that's why he got restricted and banned. Have you ever thought about putting together a Magic the Gathering cube? No, I don't have an interest in doing that myself. I did one time, which was actually an unglued and unhinged cube, which was very funny. You know you can now order the Dead of Winter promos from Plaid Hat's website. Really? No way. I don't believe you. I don't know why I'm saying I don't believe you because I'm just like being a jerk, but I want to see that for myself. Oh my god! Well, that's going to be a terrible thing for somebody. Someone promised to get me a promo and wants me to pay $25 for it. I might have to be a jerk and not do that. I can't believe they're offering that. The thought was that this was just not going to happen. Although it looks like it's on back order, so I still can't get it. But I guess I'll get it eventually. Wow, thanks for letting me know that. The Supergirl trailer grabbed my interest, and I'm not even a big superhero fan. Yeah, I know. Trust me, I know I dogged it a bit, but I'm still excited for it. And there's been rumors that even though they're on different networks, that because they're owned by the same parent company, there may actually be crossovers with Arrow and Flash, which would be amazing. Any interest in the fact that Disney is now likely going to be releasing the original unaltered Star Wars movies? Do you know of Harmy's despecialized editions? I don't know anything about those, although it sounds intriguing. I think that they have the right idea, and I think that if they love money, then they should have already been doing that. I saw Bugbear walk by on camera. A random viewer. That's me. I'm a guy like me. Nick, thoughts on if The Lost Room was made into a board game? If you haven't seen the miniseries, you need to. You're really pushing The Lost Room. Adam, I believe you're from another time? Are you a time traveler? I'll have to look into that. The new series that I started was The Returned. The American edition, because I hear that they're close enough that whichever one you start with is the one you should just watch. and it's pretty interesting so far. Eventually I'm going to do a dual review. Either I'll post them up at the same time, or I'll actually do one video for both of them of the Returns and the Leftovers. Look up those two series because they have some similar theming going on. They're like diametrically opposed in some ways, but also very similar in tone and ideas, and I think it's fascinating. And I'm very interested in what it says about our society that we gravitate towards those sort of shows recently. Cracked did a great podcast about that and why shows are so dark nowadays. And The Leftovers was one of the primary ones they talked about, but also even like Breaking Bad. And what does it say about us that those are some of our most beloved, not popular, because in terms of sheer viewers, Breaking Bad would still be considered sort of a failure because it wasn't viewed by that many people. But it's become a cult sensation in a way, and certainly has at least populated the zeitgeist of media commentary. And why? I love it too, but why? Why are we so attracted to darkness? It's a really interesting thing to discuss. Kabuki Kid is talking about product placement in terms of the Josie and the Pussycats movie and how funny it was in that. I keep getting recommendations for that movie. Was that actually good? I'm willing to watch something if it's like got like a meta funniness to it. The new Mad Max is 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. That sounds like shenanigans, but that's amazing. Bubblegum Gun always sneaks in at the last minute. The Super Fantasy Box blocked my audio. Sorry. Could you recommend a game which combines strategy and negotiation? Cosmic Encounter. Well, that's more negotiation than anything, but it works pretty well. Hey, look, someone else recommended it too. Have you ever played Toon, the old RPG where you play Looney Tunes like characters? No. Wow, that sounds interesting. How dare you curse my virgin ears? I do like a lot of the games that Jason Levine likes. Jason Mind Sculptor is not restricted in Vintage. Yeah, or Legacy. Probably not. What board game do you think most closely resembles Evangelion? None. No. Even mecha games. Because Evangelion is about way more than the mecha. It's about like apocryphal symbolism and allegories and metaphors for the human mind and a teenage angst. It's just a crazy bunch of stuff. I'm almost caught up and then I'm probably going to end it. Okay, Nick, we need a time cop game only because I'm a time traveler. Yes, I can't wait for Time Stories, actually. Look that one up. I'm very intrigued by it, and I love Eric Martin's very comical... Time Stories has been delayed for quite a long time, so Eric Martin had a running joke where he did the same exact story, written word for word, about Time Stories every year. It's very funny. And the last question. Nah, that's not a great question. Sorry. Good two-player game to take on a vacation. Very portable. I still think the Magic Duel decks work very well for that. Nick, I bought League of Hackers so I could yell, "Hack the planet" when playing. Alright, that's pretty funny. We'll end it there. I'm caught up on questions. I'm way over time. Not way over time. 15 minutes over time. I was a little bit late anyways. But, alright, cool. I think we had a great time. And a decent enough amount of questions, despite the fact that we went up against the Dice Tower, who does not care about anyone else's scheduling whatsoever. But thanks so much, guys. Guys and girls, I really love these Q&As, and I'm happy whenever anyone takes any amount of people take the time to come over and watch the channel. There's some great reviews coming up. I'm going to promise to do more optional variant stuff here. Because I love you guys so much, I'm going to give you a sneak peek at a few things I have in the works for optional variants. And trust me, optional variants is never going to dominate the channel, but it's just a cool thing I do in my spare time. I'm going to do a review of Marvel's Daredevil, the TV series. I'm going to do my top either 5 or 10 Final Fantasy games, depending on if I think it qualifies for a top 10. And I will probably do the review of both Leftovers and The Returned at some point, as well as a review of Hannibal, the TV series. And top 10 bands is another idea I have. But those are some things I'm kicking around. Top 10 deck building games for the board game segment, part of the channel, will be coming soon as well. So I might have already lost my connection, and if I did, then I'm talking to nobody, because I'm getting the spirally circle of death now. But if I'm not, then there I am. Thank you so much for watching. I'll stop rambling now. Take care. Peace and love. Peace and love.